A single letter, its edges worn by a decade of silence, slipped through the mail slot of Olivia Harper's New York penthouse, shattering the glittering facade of her Broadway stardom. The Seattle postmark was a ghost from her past, a reminder of the husband and daughter she'd abandoned for fame. Olivia's manicured fingers trembled as she tore it open, her heart racing at the words. Ethan Brooks requests finalization of divorce to establish his new family unit. New family unit. The phrase was a dagger, slicing through years of denial. She'd left Ethan, a struggling carpenter, and their infant daughter, Lily, in a cramped Seattle apartment, chasing spotlights and applause. Now, at 35, with awards lining her shelves, the emptiness of her success choked her. Ethan was moving on, giving Lily a new mother. The daughter she'd barely held, whose laughter she'd traded for curtain calls, was no longer hers. Guilt, sharp and unrelenting, surged through her. Could she face the family she betrayed? Olivia clutched the letter, her resolve hardening. She would return to Seattle, uncover the truth, and fight for a second chance, even if it meant risking everything she'd built. The stage was set for a reunion that could redeem or destroy her. The Manhattan skyline sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Olivia Harper's penthouse, but the letter from Seattle cast a shadow over her polished world. At 35, Olivia was a Broadway icon, her name synonymous with sold-out shows and glowing reviews. Yet, as she sank into her velvet sofa, the letter's words burned. Ethan Brooks, her ex-husband, sought to finalize their divorce. She'd expected this moment for years, but its arrival felt like a betrayal. 10 years ago, in a cramped Seattle apartment, Olivia had made a choice. Ethan, a carpenter with sawdust on his jeans and dreams too small for her ambition, had been her anchor. Their daughter, Lily, barely 6 months old, filled their home with cries and chaos. Olivia, then 25, felt trapped, her acting degree from Juilliard gathering dust while she played wife and mother. The stage called, promising freedom, fame, and a life beyond diaper changes and unpaid bills. It was a rainy spring evening when she left. Ethan had kissed her goodbye before his early shift, whispering, "Love you, Liv. We're lucky to have you." Lily slept in her crib, tiny fingers curled around a stuffed rabbit. Olivia's suitcase was already packed. She'd met Vincent Caldwell, a theater director, at a local audition. His promises of Broadway roles and a glittering future were intoxicating. "You're meant for greatness, Olivia," he'd said, his voice smooth as silk. "Leave the small-town life behind." She wrote a note, her hand shaking. "I can't be what you need. Don't look for me." She didn't glance back at Lily's crib, afraid the sight would break her resolve. Vincent's offer was for her alone, no baggage, no baby. Now, staring at the letter, Olivia's throat tightened. The phrase, "new family unit," echoed like a verdict. Ethan was building a family without her, erasing the life they'd shared. She traced a scar on her wrist, a memento from a stage accident early in her career. A reminder of the risks she'd taken to climb. Her penthouse, with its marble counters and designer art, felt hollow. The awards on her shelf, Tony nominations, Critics' Choice, were cold comfort against the warmth she'd abandoned. She convinced herself Lily was better off without her, that Ethan's steady love would suffice. But the letter suggested otherwise. Who was this new woman stepping into her daughter's life? What kind of mother had replaced her? Olivia's phone buzzed, Vincent's name flashing. "Rehearsals at 7. "Darling," he said, his voice still commanding. She'd followed him to New York, trading her family for his mentorship, then his love. But his affection came with conditions. Her time, her loyalty, her soul. She muted the call, her mind racing. Seattle, a city she'd buried in memory, was calling her back. The letter wasn't just paperwork. It was a summons to face the wreckage she'd left behind. Olivia stood, her reflection in the window a stranger's, polished, poised, but haunted. She needed answers. Booking a flight to Seattle, she felt the weight of her past pressing down. The stage of her life was shifting, and the next act would demand everything she had. Could she face Ethan and Lily, or would the truth destroy her carefully crafted world? The letter lay open on Olivia Harper's glass coffee table, its words a relentless accusation. New family unit looped in her mind, each syllable a reminder of the family she'd discarded. At 35, Olivia had conquered Broadway, but the Seattle law firm's letter unearthed the guilt she'd buried for a decade. Ethan Brooks, the man she loved and left, was moving on, giving their daughter, Lily, a new mother. The thought was unbearable. Olivia's penthouse, with its panoramic view of New York's glittering chaos, felt like a cage. She needed to know who had replaced her. What life Lily lived without her. Sleep eluded her, replaced by visions of a little girl who might not remember her face. By morning, Olivia's resolve solidified. She called Marcus Reed, a private investigator her theater company used for discreet background checks. "I need information on someone," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "Ethan Brooks, Seattle. Washington. Public records only. Employment, residence, anything recent." Marcus, his tone professional, promised a report within 48 hours. Olivia hung up, her fingers brushing the letter. She hadn't seen Ethan in 10 years, hadn't heard his voice since the day she left. What kind of man was he now? What kind of father to their daughter? The report arrived 2 days later. A manila envelope delivered to her penthouse. Olivia's hand shook as she opened it, the pages detailing a life she'd abandoned. Ethan Brooks, 36, owned Brooks Carpentry, a small business in Seattle. He lived at 214 Lakeview Drive, the same modest house where they'd brought Lily home from the hospital. He hadn't moved, hadn't fled the memories she'd run from. But the next section stopped her cold. Medical records, sealed for a minor child. Lily Brooks, now 10, had faced a health crisis, hospitalizations, treatments, debts totaling over $150,000. Ethan had settled some, but others lingered under payment plans. Olivia's breath caught. Her daughter had been sick, possibly dying, while she'd been dazzling audiences under stage lights. The investigator's note was clinical, unable to determine nature of illness due to privacy loss. Olivia's mind spiraled. What had Lily endured? Cancer? A chronic condition? The numbers were staggering: $80,000 to Seattle Children's Hospital, $40,000 to Pacific Medical. Ethan, who'd once fretted over a $20 grocery overage, was drowning in debt for their daughter. Olivia's Tony Award, framed on her wall, mocked her. Her wealth could have erased those bills, but she'd been absent, unreachable, a ghost in Lily's life. Marcus included a final detail. Ethan worked 3 jobs: his carpentry business, weekend shifts at a lumberyard, and nights as a delivery driver. Olivia pictured him, exhausted, his hands calloused from labor, all to save Lily. She'd been sipping champagne at galas while he fought for their daughter's life. Guilt clawed at her, sharper than any critic's review. She dialed Marcus again. "Book me a flight to Seattle," she said, her voice tight. "This stays between us." The city she'd fled was no longer a memory, it was a reckoning. Olivia needed to see Lily, to understand the life she'd left behind. The truth awaited, and it would demand a price she wasn't sure she could pay. The Seattle skyline loomed through the airplane window, a gray silhouette against a drizzling sky. As Olivia Harper's flight descended, at 35, she was a stranger to this city she'd once called home, her New York polish clashing with the Pacific Northwest's understated grit. The rental car's GPS guided her through streets that felt both familiar and alien, past coffee shops and bookstores she'd once loved. 10 years ago, she'd fled Seattle's simplicity for Broadway's dazzle, leaving behind Ethan Brooks and their daughter, Lily. Now, the weight of her investigator's report pressed against her chest: Lily's illness, Ethan's sacrifices, a new family she couldn't fathom. She needed to see it for herself. Driving toward Lakeview Drive, Olivia's heart pounded. The modest house at 214 hadn't changed. Same faded blue paint, same sagging porch where Ethan had built a swing when she was pregnant. But it wasn't her home anymore. She parked across the street, her designer coat out of place in the working-class neighborhood. Through the rain-streaked window, she saw a tricycle on the lawn, a sign of Lily's childhood unfolding without her. Olivia's fingers traced the scar on her wrist, a reminder of the risks she'd taken. This was a different kind of gamble. She didn't dare approach the house. Instead, she drove to Nora Thompson's, her old neighbor who'd once babysat Lily. Nora's bungalow, 2 blocks away, smelled of fresh bread when the door opened. At 45, Nora's hair was streaked with gray, her eyes narrowing at Olivia's unfamiliar elegance. "Olivia Harper," she said, her tone flat. "What the hell are you doing here?" Olivia swallowed, her rehearsed poise faltering. "I need to know about Ethan and Lily." Nora's laugh was sharp. "You heard about his new life, didn't you? That man's been through hell while you were playing starlet. Nora's words cut deep, but she relented, offering coffee and fragments of truth. Lily had been sick, gravely so, 2 years ago. Ethan had worked himself to exhaustion, keeping her alive. And Claire, Nora said. She's the one who stepped up, not you. Claire Bennett, Lily's schoolteacher, was now Ethan's fiancée, a woman who'd become Lily's mother in every way that mattered. Olivia's coffee cup trembled. Claire wasn't just a replacement. She was a savior, filling the void Olivia had left. Driving through Seattle's rain-soaked streets, Olivia passed Lily's elementary school. The park where she'd once pushed a stroller, the hospital where Lily had fought for her life. Each landmark was a reproach, a reminder of her absence. She checked into a downtown hotel. Its sterile luxury a stark contrast to Ethan's world. That night, she stood at her window, staring at the city's lights. Ethan's struggles, 3 jobs. Crushing medical debt played in her mind like a tragic script. Lily, now 10, was growing up with a woman who'd chosen her, not abandoned her. Olivia's Broadway triumphs felt trivial against the family she'd lost. She couldn't stay away, not now. Tomorrow, she'd visit Ethan's carpentry shop, hoping to glimpse the man she'd betrayed and the daughter she barely knew. Seattle was no longer a memory. It was a mirror, reflecting the cost of her choices. The rain had softened to a mist as Olivia Harper parked outside Brooks Carpentry, a small shop tucked between a diner and a pawn shop in Seattle's Fremont district. At 35, she was a Broadway star. But here, in Ethan Brooks' world, she was an outsider, her designer scarf a glaring misfit. Through the shop's open door, she saw Ethan, his dark hair flecked with gray, sanding a table with deliberate care. 10 years had carved lines into his face, his shoulders hunched from burdens she'd never shared. Olivia's heart ached. He was still the man who'd loved her. But now he belonged to someone else. That someone was Claire Bennett, Lily's teacher and Ethan's fiancée, the woman who'd become her daughter's true mother. Olivia had learned about Claire from Nora, her old neighbor, whose words still stung. Claire's the one who saved them. Olivia, not you. Claire, 32, was a 4th-grade teacher at Lily's school, known for her patience and warmth. When Lily fell ill at 7, diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, Claire had been there, not as a teacher but as a lifeline. She'd spent nights at the hospital, reading to Lily, holding Ethan's hand through endless tests. Olivia's investigator report hadn't captured that devotion, but Nora's stories did. Claire shaving her head when Lily lost her hair. Claire learning medical protocols to manage Lily's treatments. Hoping to understand, Olivia drove to Lincoln Elementary, parking discreetly across from the playground. At dismissal, she saw her, a petite woman with auburn hair in a practical ponytail, wearing a cardigan and jeans. Claire knelt as Lily, now 10, ran to her, her sandy curls bouncing. Lily's smile was radiant, her thin frame a reminder of her illness, but her energy spoke of recovery. "Miss Claire, look at my drawing," Lily said, thrusting a paper forward. Claire's face lit up, her attention wholly on Lily. Tucking the drawing into her bag like a treasure, Olivia's throat tightened. She'd never been that present, always distracted by auditions and dreams. Following at a distance, Olivia watched them stop at a pharmacy. Claire handed over a prescription with practiced ease, her hand resting on Lily's shoulder, eyes scanning for signs of fatigue. At a nearby park, Lily begged to swing, and Claire relented, pushing gently while checking her watch. 5 minutes, sweetheart, she said, her voice soft but firm. When Lily tired, Claire scooped her up, carrying her to a battered Subaru with a booster seat. The routine was seamless, born of months of care. Lily trusted Claire completely, her small hand tucked in hers, a bond Olivia had never forged. Back at her hotel, Olivia poured a glass of wine, the Seattle skyline mocking her isolation. Claire wasn't just a caretaker. She loved Lily, and Lily loved her back. The realization was a knife. Her daughter had a better mother, one who'd faced hospital nights and medical jargon while Olivia played to sold-out crowds. Claire's presence wasn't just a replacement. It was a judgment on Olivia's failure. She couldn't compete with that love, but she couldn't walk away either. Tomorrow, she'd try to atone, to ease the burdens she'd ignored. But deep down, she feared no gesture could undo the decade she'd been absent. Olivia Harper sat in her Seattle hotel room, the city's rain tapping against the window like a metronome of regret. At 35, Her Broadway accolades meant nothing against the investigator's report on her daughter's illness and Ethan Brooks' crushing medical debts. Lily, now 10, had survived a rare autoimmune disease. But the cost, $150,000 in hospital bills, had nearly broken Ethan. Olivia's wealth, amassed from starring roles and endorsements, could erase that burden. She couldn't reclaim her place as Lily's mother, but she could lighten the load she'd left Ethan to carry alone. It was a small atonement, a way to prove she'd changed, even if no one knew. She contacted Laura Mitchell, a Seattle attorney specializing in debt resolution, her voice steady over the phone. "I want to pay off medical debts for the Brooks family," anonymously, Olivia said. "Create a shell charity. No trace to me." Laura, skeptical but professional, agreed to set up the Pacific Hope Foundation, a fictional entity to settle $120,000 in outstanding bills. Olivia transferred the funds from her savings, a sum that barely dented her fortune but felt like a lifeline. For the first time in days, hope flickered. She could help Lily without disrupting her life. 3 days later, Laura called, her tone tense. "Ms. Harper, there's a problem." Ethan traced the payment. Olivia's blood ran cold. How, she whispered. He demanded hospital records, found inconsistencies in the foundation's paperwork. "He's in my office now, and he wants to speak to you." Before Olivia could protest, Ethan's voice cut through the line, raw with fury. "You think money fixes this, Olivia? You think you can buy your way back after 10 years? His words were a lash, each one stripping away her fragile resolve. "I didn't know Lily was sick," she stammered, tears burning. "Because you didn't want to know," he roared. "You left us for your spotlight. Where were you when Lily couldn't breathe? When I thought I'd lose her?" Olivia's sobs choked her, but Ethan's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. "Lily has a real mother now, one who didn't run. If you try this again, money, letters, anything, I'll get a restraining order. Stay out of our lives." The line went dead. Laura came back, apologetic. "He's returning the funds. He wants no connection to you." Olivia stared at her phone, the rejection absolute. Even her money, the one thing she thought could help, was tainted by her betrayal. That night, she walked Seattle's waterfront, the Puget Sound's chill seeping into her bones. Ethan's words, "real mother," echoed, a verdict on her absence. Claire Bennett, Lily's teacher, had been there through hospital nights while Olivia had been signing autographs. Her attempt to atone had backfired, exposing her to Ethan's rage and her own powerlessness. She couldn't undo the past, but the need to see Lily, to prove she wasn't the woman who'd left, consumed her. Ethan's threat loomed, but so did her guilt. She wouldn't approach them directly, not yet. Instead, she'd watch, learn, and find another way to make amends. The cost of her fame was clear, and the price of redemption was only beginning to reveal itself. Olivia Harper's Seattle hotel room felt like a prison, the city's relentless reign mirroring the turmoil within her. At 35, her Broadway triumphs were ashes against Ethan Brooks' rejection of her attempt to pay Lily's medical debts. His words, "Lily has a real mother now," cut deeper than any critic's review. A reminder that Claire Bennett had claimed the role Olivia abandoned. The investigator's report, still open on her desk, detailed Lily's recovery and Ethan's engagement to Claire. A photo, clipped to the file, showed them at a school event. Ethan, weary but proud, Lily, smiling, Claire, her arm around them both. Olivia traced Lily's face, her daughter's features as strangers. Shaped by a decade without her, sleep eluded her, replaced by an obsession to reclaim a piece of the family she'd lost. Ethan's threat of a restraining order should have deterred her, but guilt and desperation were stronger. She couldn't approach Lily directly. Ethan would follow through, but she needed to see her, to prove she'd changed. Nora, her old neighbor, had mentioned an engagement party for Ethan and Claire, a community celebration at a local park. It was public, neutral ground. Olivia's mind raced. If she could face them there, plead her case. Maybe Ethan would see her remorse. Maybe Lily would sense her love, even if she didn't understand it. She spent days planning, her Broadway discipline turning to a darker purpose. She memorized the park's layout, scouted entrances, and rehearsed her words. "I was young, selfish," she'd say. "I've left everything to be here for Lily." She bought a simple dress, trading her designer wardrobe for something less conspicuous, but her resolve was unwavering. The party was her stage, her last chance to rewrite the script of her betrayal. She ignored the risks, Ethan's anger, Claire's judgment, Lily's confusion. The need to be seen, to be heard, overpowered reason. By night, Olivia stalked Seattle's streets, driving past Lily's school. The pharmacy, the park where Claire pushed her on swings. Each glimpse of her daughter fueled her obsession. Lily's laugh, so like Ethan's, was a siren call. Olivia's hotel mirror reflected a woman unraveling, dark circles under her eyes, her poise cracking. She called Nora, fishing for details. "It's a big event," Nora said. "Wary. Friends, family. The whole school's invited. Don't do anything stupid, Olivia." But stupidity was her only path. She couldn't live with the silence of her absence any longer. The night before the party, Olivia sat at her hotel desk, writing a letter she'd never sent. "Lily, I carried you, loved you, even when I failed you," she wrote, tears smudging the ink. She imagined reading it aloud, her voice breaking through Ethan's defenses. The party would be chaotic, music, laughter, crowds. She could slip in, speak her truth, and leave before Ethan called the police. It was reckless, but so was leaving 10 years ago. Her Broadway career had taught her to seize the spotlight, and this was her final act. As dawn broke, Olivia steeled herself. Tomorrow. She crashed the engagement party, risking everything for a chance at redemption. The cost of her obsession was unknown, but the price of inaction was a lifetime of regret. The Seattle park buzzed with laughter and music as Olivia Harper approached, her simple navy dress a thin disguise for the chaos she carried. At 35, she was a Broadway star, but tonight, she was a ghost from Ethan Brooks' past, driven by an obsession to reclaim her daughter, Lily. The engagement party for Ethan and Claire Bennett filled the park with school families, neighbors, and friends. Lanterns hung from trees, a folk band played, and children chased each other across the grass. Olivia's heart pounded as she slipped through the crowd, her eyes scanning for Lily. The investigators' report had warned her of Ethan's resolve, but she couldn't turn back, not now. She spotted them near a decorated gazebo. Ethan, handsome in a flannel shirt, laughing with Claire, whose auburn hair glowed under string lights. Lily, 10, danced nearby, her curls bouncing, a paper crown from the party tilting on her head. The sight stole Olivia's breath, her daughter, healthy, radiant, utterly unaware of the mother watching from the shadows. Claire knelt, adjusting Lily's crown, her smile pure devotion. Olivia's resolve wavered, but guilt propelled her forward. She had to speak, to make them see her change, even if it shattered their joy. As a toast began, Olivia stepped into the gazebo's light, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Ethan, please. Just listen." Heads turned, gasps rippling through the crowd. Ethan's face drained of color, then flushed with fury. "Olivia," he spat, stepping in front of Lily. Claire pulled Lily close, her eyes wide with protective alarm. "I've changed," Olivia pleaded, her voice breaking. "I left New York, my career, to be here. I know I failed Lily, but I'm her mother." The word mother hung in the air, a desperate claim met with silence. Lily's small voice broke the tension. "Daddy, who's that lady?" Her confusion was a knife, twisting in Olivia's chest. 10 years had erased her from her daughter's memory. She was a stranger, a disruption. Lily clung to Claire, tears welling. "Make her go away, Miss Claire." Olivia's composure shattered. "Lily, it's me, your first mama," she sobbed, reaching out. Ethan blocked her, his voice low and lethal. "Get out, Olivia. You're scaring her." The crowd closed in, neighbors and teachers forming a barrier, their faces a mix of pity and anger. Nora, her old neighbor, stepped forward, her voice firm. "Olivia, you need to leave." Humiliation burned as Olivia saw the truth in Lily's fearful eyes. She wasn't a mother here, just a specter from a past Lily didn't know. Ethan's gaze held no mercy. "You lost us 10 years ago. Don't ruin her happiness now." Defeated, Olivia stumbled back, tears streaming. The band resumed, the party swallowing her outburst, but the damage was done. Lily's fear, Claire's protectiveness, Ethan's rage, they were a wall she couldn't breach. As she fled to her car, the park's laughter mocked her. Her grand gesture had failed, leaving only the wreckage of her obsession and the undeniable truth. Lily had a family, and Olivia was no longer part of it. Olivia Harper sat in her rental car, parked blocks from the Seattle park where she'd crashed Ethan and Claire's engagement party. The echo of Lily's voice, "Who's that lady?" cut deeper than any rejection she'd faced on Broadway. At 35, Olivia had traded her daughter's love for fame, and now, 10 years later, Lily didn't even recognize her. The party's lights still glowed in the distance, laughter carrying through the damp Seattle air, but Olivia was an outcast. Her desperate plea for forgiveness met with fear and fury. Ethan's words, "You lost us 10 years ago," were a verdict, final and unyielding. Claire's protective embrace around Lily was a silent claim. This was her daughter now. Back at her hotel, Olivia poured a glass of wine, her hands trembling. The mirror reflected a stranger, polished but broken, her Broadway poise useless against the truth. Lily, now 10, had looked at her with confusion, not love, seeking refuge in Claire's arms. Claire Bennett, the teacher who'd nursed Lily through her autoimmune disease, was no mere substitute. She was the mother Olivia had failed to be. Nora's stories replayed in her mind. Claire shaving her head for Lily, learning medical protocols, loving Ethan through their darkest days. Olivia had been in New York, dazzling audiences, while Claire built a family from the ashes of her abandonment. The investigator's report, still on her desk, detailed Lily's recovery, months in remission, a vibrant child reclaiming her childhood. But it also underscored Olivia's absence. Hospital stays, Ethan's 3 jobs, Claire's unwavering presence. Olivia had no place in that story. Her attempt to pay Lily's medical debts had been rejected, her party outburst a disaster. She'd imagined herself as a redeemed heroine, but to Lily, she was a frightening stranger. The realization was suffocating. She'd lost her daughter not just to Claire, but to time and her own choices. Olivia walked to the hotel window, Seattle's skyline blurred by rain and tears. She thought of her penthouse, her Tony nominations, Vincent's manipulative love, all hollow without Lily. Ethan's rage had been justified. He'd protected Lily from a mother who'd vanished. Claire's devotion was undeniable, her bond with Lily forged in hospital rooms, not biology. Olivia's claim to motherhood was a legal footnote, irrelevant against Claire's daily love. The party had exposed her powerlessness. She couldn't force her way back, couldn't erase 10 years with tears or money. Yet, giving up felt like betraying Lily again. Olivia pulled out a notebook, scribbling ideas. She couldn't be Lily's mother, but she could ensure her future. A scholarship, funded anonymously, could ease Ethan's burdens without tainting Lily's peace. It was a small act, devoid of recognition, but it felt right. She'd contact Laura, the attorney, tomorrow, keeping her name out of it. For the first time, Olivia saw a path forward, not redemption, but responsibility. As the city slept, she faced the painful truth. Lily was complete without her, and her love would have to be silent, distant, but real. The stage of her life had shifted, and this act required sacrifice, not applause. The Seattle dawn broke gray and quiet, matching the resolve settling in Olivia Harper's heart. At 35, she'd lost her daughter, Lily, to time and her own choices. Her crashing of Ethan and Claire's engagement party a humiliating failure. Lily's fearful cry, "Make her go away," still echoed. A reminder that Olivia was a stranger to the 10-year-old she'd abandoned. Ethan's rejection and Claire's protective love had sealed the truth. Lily had a real family, one Olivia couldn't reclaim. But surrender wasn't her only option. She couldn't be a mother, but she could act from the shadows, easing the burdens she'd ignored for a decade. It was atonement, not redemption. And it demanded secrecy. Olivia called Laura Mitchell, the attorney who'd handled her failed debt payment. "I need to set up a scholarship for a child," she said, her voice steady. "Anonymous. Through a legitimate foundation. No connection to me." Laura, cautious after Ethan's discovery, agreed to create the Future Stars Fund, a charity to support Seattle children with medical hardships. The scholarship would cover Lily's education, private school, college, whatever she needed, without Ethan knowing the source. Olivia transferred $200,000, a sum that barely touched her Broadway wealth but carried her unspoken love. "Make it ironclad," she told Laura. "Ethan can't trace it." Laura worked swiftly, structuring the fund to award Lily a merit-based grant disguised as a community initiative. Within a week, Ethan received a letter from the fund offering Lily full tuition support. Olivia imagined his relief, the weight of medical debt and future costs lifting, even if he'd never thank her. It wasn't about gratitude. It was about Lily's future. Free from the financial scars of her illness. Olivia's hotel desk was littered with notes, other ways to help, like donating to Seattle Children's Hospital, always anonymously. Her Broadway ego, once craving applause, now sought silence. She drove to Lily's school one last time, parking far enough to avoid notice. At dismissal, Lily bounded out, clutching a science project. Claire waiting by the gate. Lily's smile was unburdened, her recovery evident in her energy. Claire's attentive gaze, checking for fatigue, was a mother's love in action. Olivia's chest ached, but she felt a strange peace. Lily was thriving, and this scholarship would ensure her dreams, art, science, whatever she chose, weren't crushed by debt. It was the only gift Olivia could give, one that didn't disrupt the family Lily cherished. Back at her hotel, Olivia packed her bags, her New York life a distant memory. She couldn't return to Broadway's glare. Not after facing her failures. Seattle had changed her, stripping away the starlet to reveal a woman capable of selfless love. She'd stay in the city, but far from Lakeview Drive, respecting Ethan's boundaries. The scholarship was her final act as Lily's mother, a role she'd forfeited but could still honor in secret. As she sealed the last donation form, Olivia felt lighter. Her love for Lily would live in these quiet acts, unseen but enduring. The stage was empty now, and for the first time, she didn't need an audience to feel whole. Olivia Harper stood in her new Seattle apartment, a modest one-bedroom in Ballard, far from the Lakeview Drive home where Lily and Ethan lived. At 35, she'd left her Broadway empire, her penthouse, her Tony nominations, Vincent's manipulative love, for a city that held her deepest regrets. The engagement party disaster, where Lily had recoiled from her, had shattered her illusions of reclaiming her daughter. Yet, the anonymous scholarship she'd funded for Lily, ensuring her education, had given Olivia a purpose. She couldn't be a mother, but she could build a life of meaning, loving others as she'd failed to love Lily. Seattle, once a place of shame, was now her chance to begin again. She took a job at a community center, teaching drama to children, many from broken homes or foster care. The pay was a fraction of her Broadway salary, but the work felt vital. Her students, with their raw talent and guarded hearts, reminded her of Lily's resilience. Olivia poured herself into their lives, helping them find confidence on stage, a gift she'd never given her daughter. Colleagues at the center, unaware of her past, noted her intensity, her quiet dedication. "You're a natural," one said, but Olivia knew it was penance, not instinct, driving her. On weekends, she volunteered at Seattle Children's Hospital, reading to patients or organizing art workshops. The hospital, where Lily had fought her illness, was a sacred space. Olivia never sought her daughter, respecting Ethan's boundaries, but being there felt like a connection. She donated $50,000 to their oncology wing, again anonymously, ensuring other families wouldn't face Ethan's debts. Each act was a step toward healing, not for Lily, but for herself. The guilt that once consumed her was softening, replaced by a quiet resolve to live differently. She avoided Lily's school and park, but sometimes drove past Nora's house, hoping for news. Nora, now kinder, shared snippets. Lily was excelling in science. Claire and Ethan were planning a small wedding. Olivia listened, her heart aching but grateful. Lily was happy, loved, and safe, everything Olivia had failed to provide. The scholarship, now active, had eased Ethan's stress, though he'd never know why. Olivia's new life was solitary but purposeful, her apartment filled with books and scripts, not awards. One evening, at the community center, a shy girl named Mia performed a monologue Olivia had taught her. Her courage, despite a fractured home life, moved Olivia to tears. "You believed in me," Mia said, hugging her. In that moment, Olivia saw Lily's face, not in pain, but in possibility. She wasn't replacing her daughter. She was honoring her by giving others what she couldn't. Her Broadway dreams had been about glory. This work was about love, small and steady. As spring bloomed, Olivia walked Seattle's waterfront, the Puget Sound sparkling. She'd lost Lily forever, but she'd found a way to live with that loss. Her new beginning wasn't about erasing the past, but building a future where her love, though distant, could touch lives. The stage had changed, and Olivia, no longer a star, was finally playing a role that mattered, quietly, humbly, for others. Olivia Harper's journey through Seattle's rain-soaked streets taught her a truth as unyielding as the city's tides. Love is not a grand gesture or a fleeting spotlight. It's the daily choice to show up, especially when it's hard. At 35, she traded her daughter, Lily, and husband, Ethan, for Broadway's allure, believing fame would fill the void of her restless heart. But fame was a hollow stage, and her abandonment left scars no award could heal. Lily's fear at the engagement party, Ethan's rage, and Claire's quiet devotion revealed the cost of her absence. Love, Olivia learned, is presence, through hospital nights, small victories, and unspoken sacrifices. Claire's bond with Lily, forged in crisis, was the mothering Olivia never offered, a mirror to her failure and a lesson in what family truly means. Yet, Olivia's story isn't just about loss. It's about redemption through selfless acts. Unable to reclaim Lily, she funded her future anonymously, easing burdens without seeking credit. Her new life, teaching and volunteering, showed that love can endure in quiet service, even after irreversible mistakes. We all make choices that shape our relationships, and some wounds can't be undone. But we can choose to act with love today, to build connections that withstand life's storms. So, pause and reflect. Who in your life needs your presence? Not your money, not your apologies, but your time, your attention, your steady hand through their struggles. Reach out today, call a friend, hug your child, listen to a partner. Show up, not just in moments of joy, but in the messy, painful ones. Build love that lasts, not with grand promises, but with consistent, everyday acts. Olivia learned too late for Lily, but her lesson is yours to embrace now. Don't wait for a letter from the past to remind you what matters. Act now, love fiercely, and create a family, biological or chosen, that endures.